All right, everyone. We are back for episode 38 of Stub Luv Live. We have Eric Zitter as our guest tonight. I see Eric has joined. Let me get him in the room. Here we go.
Hey, Howard, how are you?
There he is, the godfather of tickets.
I got it to work, too.
And you got it to work tonight, too. And that's great. I saw Wheeler's Collectibles on. I saw a whole bunch of Zitters on. So,
It's a big family event tonight.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine. So, Eric, this is your second appearance on Stub Luv Live. The first appearance was a little delayed because of technical difficulties, so hopefully we'll avoid the technical difficulties tonight. We're competing against playoff baseball and the vice presidential debate.
I think this wins.
It certainly wins in my book by a long shot. My Phillies aren't ready to play yet, and I have no interest in the debate. So one of the things that I think we were going to try to talk about tonight, and you were going to show off a little bit, was some ticket set collecting. And I had a couple of people reach out to me today and say, what does that mean? And I think, Eric, you'd agree with me, ticket set collecting means whatever you want it to mean for you.
Yep. Any set that you could put together that you think is, pretty unique or pretty cool, like, there's no set definition.
No set definition. And what might be something that you set collect, I may have no interest in set collecting, and vice versa.
Yeah. So, if I could, find a cool ticket that's kind of rare, and, if there's a chance to build some type of set around it, I try and do that. So, a good example. So we have that's a Jordan debut right there.
That's not just a Jordan debut. That's a Jordan Red.
Jordan Red. And then I had a Bird as well.
Bird debut, okay. Well, I'm trying to put this in my mind together of what this set is.
So I thought it'd be cool. Those are two of the key members of the 92 Dream.
No, don't tell us yet. Don't tell us yet. Let's see if people can figure it out.
Yeah.
All right. So Jordan debut, Bird debut. Keep going.
Yeah. Then we have David Robinson.
How rare is the David Robinson debut?
It's pretty rare. I haven't seen many others. So it's from what I've seen, but who knows what's out there.
How long ago did you get a Robinson debut?
Robinson was probably about a year ago, year and a half.
Okay. I don't think I've ever seen a Robinson.
I looked for a long time.
Yeah, I'm sure you have. I don't think I've ever seen one. That's the first time I ever saw one. Okay, what else? Let me try to put it together here.
Yeah. So we're getting there, and then we have a Pippen, Scottie Pippen.
Okay, I'm starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Scottie Pippen debut.
And then we have a Chris Mullen debut.
Oh my God, Eric, what in the world is that game even from?
That's November 6th, 1985, Golden State.
Oh my God, that's gotta be. Oh, I've never seen one of those before ever.
Yeah, it's the only one I've ever seen. I don't know if there are any in the pop report.
And any reason why that Robinson and that Mullen are not in slabs?
Just haven't done it. No, there's no specific reason. Maybe there's a chance for me to get the Mullen signed at some point, but we'll see.
Okay. Yeah, I've seen Mullen, I think, do some signings here and there.
Yeah. And then Patrick Ewing.
Okay. I think I figured this one out.
It's coming together.
Yeah.
And so we have Charles Barkley.
Eric, I gotta tell you, I love you to death. You're a good guy. There's only one time in my life that I wanted to murder you, and it happened to be the day that you beat me out for that Charles Barkley debut.
Yep. So the Barkley was actually the last one to fill the set. No, I was looking for that one about, I think, about 8 years, and it's the first time I saw one pop up.
I've never seen one until you bought that one, and I was, look, if I'm gonna not get it, I'm glad you got it. So I think you're putting together the '92 Dream Team.
That's it. Yep, you got it.
Wow, just an amazing set. Let's see who else you have here.
We have a Stockton.
So Eric, how many Stockton debuts are there?
I don't know. It's the only one I've ever seen, but you never know what's out there, but it's the only one I've ever seen.
I mean, Eric, I've never seen, out of the ones that you've shown so far, I've never seen a Robinson. I had never seen a Mullen until today. Yep. I never saw the Stockton until I knew you put that one together. And I don't think until the Barkley went up and you bought it on eBay, I never saw that one either.
Yeah, and most people, you don't see a Magic Johnson too often either. So.
Oh my God, I forgot Magic. That's a one, right?
I think there's one other. I think there's one in the pop report.
Maybe Mike Horn has it. Maybe
Actually he has the seat next to it. So yeah.
Okay. When did you pick that one up, Eric?
That was a long time ago. That could have been. It was one of the first ones actually. Maybe about 5 years ago. 6 years ago.
Ask you without, and you can tell me no. You can say screw off. No, I'm not telling you. Back 5 years ago, what did you pay for that Magic Johnson debut? And I know your wife's watching, so
yeah. So I paid $1,000 for it.
Wow.
So.
Wow. Wow. Someone saying show the Leitner debut.
The Leitner, yeah. We got the Leitner debut.
Oh my gosh. How rare is that one? That's a Celtic ticket. That looks pretty rare too.
I've seen a couple of those every now and again.
Okay.
Then we have got the Drexler. You can see that.
It's that's a great ticket.
And Karl Malone.
Oh my God. I've never seen a Karl Malone.
Yep. It took a long time to put it all together. Maybe it wasn't the greatest idea to put this one together. I didn't realize how long it would take, but it was fun to do.
How long do you think it took you?
About 8 years.
8 years.
Yeah.
And now you've completed it.
Well, I just saw someone popped up a Chuck Daly. Yeah, I don't have a Chuck Daly head coaching debut. If I saw one of those, it would be nice to add. But those are all the players. And then I add to it, this is a media pass from '91. This was the selection show where they selected all the members of the '92 Dream Team.
Oh my gosh, that's cool.
Then we have the first game they played together, the basketball tournament of the Americas.
Yep, that's a great one.
The first Olympic game they played in '92.
Is that the one against Angola?
I don't even know. I know it's the first one. I don't know who they played.
Okay.
And this is we have the gold medal where they won the gold medal game.
Wow. So
it starts with one or two, and then you realize you can kind of put a cool set together if you really put your mind to it.
So at what point? I mean, I guess kind of like Magic and Jordan probably stand on their own. Bird, but I guess the question would be, like, at what point did you say, unless you started off with it, did you say, I'm going to try to put the run together? I mean, how far into it were you when you're like, I think I can do this?
Probably had about 6 of them, and I knew I needed I think it was another 5 more. And it was 5 I've never seen before, so I didn't know how long it would take, and it took a long time, but fun to do, kind of a pain, but yeah.
Do you know anyone else who's tried to put it together?
I don't, but it doesn't mean I haven't. There could be another set out there. You never know.
I don't think
you never know what these private collectors have in their collections. And
what do you think now? Because your wife is watching. What do you think the Magic Johnson debut's worth? You paid $1,000 for.
I don't know. Your guess is as good as mine. Well, what do you think?
I mean, I would say it's rarer than a Michael Jordan debut. It's even rarer than a red Michael Jordan debut. Magic is incredibly popular as a Los Angeles Laker. I don't know. Does that ticket hit six figures? Maybe.
Don't know.
Not
I'm not going to find out. I won't find out anytime soon unless Mike sells his. So we'll
right,
see.
right. So out of all of them, which I mean, I know the Barkley was really tough, but I mean, what would you say are the three that were the toughest for you to put together?
Probably the Mullen and the Stockton also. Well, I haven't seen a Malone since the one that I got either. So
Yeah, yeah. I think the Malone's really rare. So Rob, RP Tickets said definitely six figures for the Magic. I think I agree. I think it's a six-figure ticket. If it's not six figures, it's real close, but it could go for higher than just 100 grand if you get the right people that are involved. I mean, geez, that's a biggie. And it's
yeah,
a Clippers game too. I mean,
yeah.
it's not
No,
even a Lakers.
that'd be nice. Hope so.
Rob saying you should get it signed.
I'd love to. I'm just afraid to drop it in the mail to do
Yeah,
that.
yeah. We'll talk off the show. I may have somebody that would do it in person for you that knows Press Pass pretty well. So they're the ones that have the exclusive. So kind of getting to set collecting, I took some notes here. I think it's very personalized to you. You can go ahead and put together anything that you want. It could be a sports team. I had Mark Brummer on, and Mark's a big Detroit Tigers collector and a Detroit Lions collector. I mean, he collects, I think, all of the Alan Trammell home run tickets. I mean,
Yep.
kind of a unique set.
Yep.
He also, I think, collects every game from 1984 for the Tigers. So, I mean, you can really do anything that you'd like. I mean, I know some people that are putting together concert debuts in the city of Philadelphia. So it's, bands who are attending, doing their first show, first gig in Philadelphia. And kind of along those lines, and again, it doesn't matter if it's important to you, it's great. And it's very collectible. Doesn't mean that, someone else needs to go ahead and collect it. And obviously you showed off one of the most brilliant, desirable sets of all time, but it doesn't have to be that. I brought a couple, Eric, with me today. So for me, I'm a Philadelphia Phillies fan. 1980 World Series is one of the big deals for me. So I've been trying to put together a set of the fulls for all the World Series games. So this is game one. Game two, these are all
Yep.
fulls. So game three, I am missing a game four. I have a second game three that I hope to find some other crazy Philadelphia fan that was maybe doing the same thing that needed a game three and maybe had two game fours.
Are the game fours hard to find? I don't know. Are they
I
hard to
think
find?
the game fours are the hardest.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was definitely a game in Kansas City, which was on the road. Game five. And then this one was a toughie too, was the clincher.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, a little set for me, maybe not super desirable to the average bear, but, pretty cool nonetheless. I think it also just enables you to do kind of something that's more suited to your individual needs. And that's what I think ultimately makes it so terrific.
A set could be, 3 or 4 tickets. It doesn't have to be an extensive, list of anything you want it to be.
Right. It really can be. And that's what makes, I think, ticket collecting so cool that, I would never collect Alan Trammell home run tickets, but the fact that Mark Brummer does makes it really cool. The fact that Tony Swan's collecting every Carlton Fisk game, I don't particularly want to collect those, but I would try to help both Mark and Tony out as much as I could. And, Mark Prillick with the Dave Winfield home run tickets. It's not my thing, but very cool nonetheless.
They're still pretty sweet collections, that hard to find, very hard to put together. And
I respect their diligence, and I respect their patience, and I respect that they're, showing respect to ticket collecting by putting them together. And, the great thing is when you're close, Eric, and you get one that you need, like I want that game four pretty badly. You know, when you're close and you can almost feel it or taste it, you're like, that's good.
Howard, sometimes the best tickets you buy are the ones that are worth like $10, but it's one that you've looked for a long time. So it's not always the expensive stuff that's the most exciting.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't want a Rick Riz debut, but I know Sean loves him. And, you know, I don't want a Red Panda debut either. You know, but Mike Violi's, you know, was coveting one. And quite candidly, I try to stay away from all Mets tickets. But, you know, Rob Pagan is a big Mets guy, and so is John Caniglio. And, you know, I have zero interest in those tickets. But I still respect the fact that they go ahead and are trying to put together some sets of their own. Now, you also have a set that you've been chasing that's also, let's go Mets. Come on. They did win tonight, so I'm sure he's happy. So there is a set that you're putting together, Eric, which is incredibly challenging. It's really a phenomenal set. And I do know about this one, and I did ask you to showcase this one tonight because just talking about it blows me away. So go ahead and tell us what it is.
Yeah, so I grew up in Brooklyn. I've always been sorry, Rob, I've been a Yankee fan for forever. So, you know, I thought it'd be cool to put together a, you know, nice collection goes through the history of the Yankees.
Okay. So start us off.
Yeah, so before they were the Yankees, you know, they were the Highlanders. And so this is one of the earliest known Highlander tickets from 1903. And I don't know if you know Dan Busby, he had a Yankee book. So this is one of the ones that was highlighted in his book as one of the earliest Highlander tickets.
But before you show more, showing that ticket right there, how long ago did you acquire that one, Eric?
Probably 6-7 years ago.
And again, without, you don't have to say, but what did you pay for that ticket?
I think it's similar, like $1,000, probably like $1,000, $1,500.
And have you seen others?
No.
What do you think that ticket goes for at an auction today?
Don't know. You know, I'm not sure if PSA would slab it. You know, it's in Dan Busby's book, but I don't know. You don't know until it goes to auction. You get one or two people who really want it going against each other, and you know, who knows?
It's just absolutely crazy that you own that. And I would say this to everybody: if you don't have the Busby books and you're a ticket collector, you should buy them. They actually sell them on Amazon. They're hardcover books. There's a Yankee one, and then there's a Dodger one. I actually think the Dodger one's more impressive. It's a larger book. It actually really is a beautifully done book. The Yankee one is a little smaller. It's also hardcover. They're not cheap. I want to say like the Yankee book's $50 and the Dodger book's 60 or something like that. I mean, they're not cheap, but they're cool to have if you're.
They're very cool, and they're fun to look at. You know, if you have nothing to do on I don't know, Wednesday night, you're sitting around, you just flip through it, and they're look at the pictures and see what's in there.
Certainly better than a vice presidential debate. That's for sure.
I agree.
Okay, show us more, Eric.
So that was 1903. So 1912. So, you know, I think that the Yankees have probably one of the most iconic uniforms that are, you know, in terms of sports, the pinstripes. So this is from 1912. It's the first time the Yankees or the Highlanders ever wore pinstripes.
Oh my gosh, what does that slab say, Eric? What's the flip say?
It says Highlanders Yanks first time in pinstripes.
Oh my!
I don't know if you can see it.
Gosh, can we see the ticket? Can you show it a little on people? Oh my God, I've never seen anything like that before. That is crazy. Okay, so that's 1912.
Yeah, and this is the last game of 1912. So this is their last game as the Highlanders before they became the Yankees.
Holy moly.
Then,
people are just showing these emojis in response like they're just shocked.
Yeah, well, it's a long time. It wasn't put together yesterday. It's a long time putting this stuff together.
I'm not so sure, Eric, that I mean, we'll get to even more, and they're great, but I'm not even sure that it's possible to put this together now.
Yeah. So we have 1921. This is their first ever World Series game. So it's game one.
That's cool.
And then Yankee Stadium opened in 1923. So that was the first game at Yankee Stadium.
That's the ticket to the house that Ruth built game.
Yep. And Ruth hit a home run in that game.
Yeah. That's a great ticket.
And then 1923 Game 6, that's their first clincher, first championship.
Wow.
And 1932, the called shot, just not that rare, but still cool.
Very cool. Still very cool.
Yeah. And then Ruth hit a home run in the first ever All-Star game in 1930. Was it 1933?
Yeah. That's a great one. A great
and this
ticket.
is Babe Ruth's last ever game at Yankee Stadium.
God. What's the date? And that's a dated ticket.
Yeah, September 24th, 1934.
Holy moly.
And that's his last ever game as a Yankee.
And that's in Washington.
That was in Washington, 1934.
Oh,
yeah.
That's a great ticket,
and then
too.
Going to 1939, you had the Garrick speech.
Just wait. So that's a luckiest man speech.
Luckiest man speech.
Yeah. Just kind of another one in the history. You know, I mean, that's a pretty amazing ticket, Mr. Zitter.
Yep. Thank you.
Wow.
Wow. Then DiMaggio, his streak ended, 56-game hitting streak.
Wow.
You have Babe bows out.
It's a big one.
Yep.
Definitely a big one.
And Mantle made his debut in 1951.
Who needs Busby's book? They're all right here.
And then Mantle won the Triple Crown in 1956. So that's the last game of 56.
Wow. That's a great one.
We got Larson's perfect game signed by Berra and Larson.
Of course it is. That's a great one too. Yeah.
And then Maris's 61st home run. So I stopped there, but just to give an idea of, just to go through the history of, some of the Yankees and some of the cool moments that I thought were, pretty cool.
And Eric, let's take it, we talked a little bit yesterday and today. So you had a lot of other tickets that you were like, oh, I could show these. And I was like, well, why don't you pick 15 good ones and, show the history. But without showing them, I mean, what others were there? I mean, there was a lot of others you were telling me about.
Yeah, so, a lot of debuts of guys in Monument Park, tickets or stubs from when the guys had their jerseys retired at Yankee Stadium, other key moments, Pine Tar game, a couple no-hitters that happened, for the Yankees, anything, memorable or, key moments that happened in their history.
And you have all those as well. But again, doesn't mean that, you'd have to put it in a humongous Yankee moment ticket set. You could just say, everyone that's jerseys retired, I'm going to get their debut or the game that they, had their jersey retired. I mean,
I kind of just made it up as you went along, I was like, once you have one or two, you have two jerseys retired, like, I can get a couple more jerseys that are retired. So you focus on that. So you kind of just build it as you go along. And again, this is also probably like 10 to 15 years in the making. It's not overnight where you kind of have one set and then you start thinking about what you can add to it to, make it more interesting.
Eric, I know we didn't talk about this, I'm going to impromptu it and, tell us what it was like 10, 15 years ago, searching for tickets on eBay. Was it just like nothing was there or they were all there? Like, was it they were rare and there were no fish in the pond? Or was it these little ponds with just tons of fish and you were just ripping them out left and right?
There are definitely more opportunities and they definitely stayed on eBay longer. One of my biggest collections are probably debut tickets. And I remember there was a George Brett on there, George Brett debut. And I went back and forth with the owner probably it was probably up on eBay for 3 weeks before we decided on the final price to get it at. So definitely less demand, definitely up there on eBay for longer amounts of time.
Unreal. Other than, so give me a couple of other examples. Like, do you have any other examples that you remember where you were like, oh, a ticket that would be on today would be snatched immediately, and
Oh yeah.
it was
I
on
mean,
eBay for an I'm sorry, go ahead.
Mantle debut, they would go for maybe 2,000, 2,500, and these are regular auctions. You know, that's where they would end. And at the time, that was a high price. You know, it was crazy for some of these tickets to go for that much. It really wasn't until PSA started slabbing them that I think people paid more attention to them.
Yeah. Wow. So nothing to compare to you, but I went ahead and I was like, okay, what's a nice little ticket set that someone could do that doesn't necessarily cost a ton of money. Now, the first ticket I'm going to show is the costliest, but a Maris 61, and I've got a couple of those because I just think it's a great ticket. And then you go ahead and you get McGuire hitting 62, and I got that signed. But I mean, not an expensive ticket. Certainly something very easy to acquire. McGuire hits 70 the same year. Not super expensive, and I think incredibly cool. You pick up a Judge 62,
Yep.
and that's not really all that expensive, and in a nice PSA grade. I mean, I think this is a PSA 10, but you didn't have to buy a 10. And then you think about, that's a nice little set. Maybe you add some Sosa tickets in there, from
Yep.
when he hit 66, or you add the Bonds tickets in there when he hit 73. And then you go ahead and can kind of do some cool stuff pairing it up.
There
And
you go.
Patrick
Yep.
Ryan talked about it. Here's a McGuire Sosa baseball. Because look, I mean, in '98 that was huge, and even Sosa wrote Long Gone Summer, just a cool little item to go with it. Like Patrick was talking about, and I think you do it too. You go ahead and put together some items, and now you've got something where someone walks into your office or walks into your man cave or fan cave or whatever you want to call it, and you're like, whoa, that stuff's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be super expensive to really get someone's attention. So I think there's so many opportunities.
Yeah, for me, the fun part is the search. Thinking about the collection, thinking, can I really put that together? Probably not, but I'm going to try anyway. And as you get closer and closer, it's like, yeah, this is pretty sweet.
Yeah, add a program in there, add some press passes in there, add some whatever else you want.
Nice signed card that goes with it.
Yeah, signed card, and you've got yourself a real nice collection. So I also wanted to talk to, we're gone about 30 minutes, and like I said, Eric, I knew this was going to happen. We could go forever, very, very quickly. I'm going to try to keep these to 30 minutes. I get more views that way, and I think people appreciate it more. We can always have you back and back and back because you've got so much stuff. Someone's saying the PSA set registry for tickets is pretty sparse, pales in comparison to cards. And this is Golf Ticket Collector. I agree. And, I think we have to start working on trying to put some more set registries together on PSA. I don't think we ever did the top 100. I know Sean had talked about doing it, but Sean definitely should start doing that and sending that in, because that would be pretty cool. The other thing I wanted to talk a little bit about, Eric, is, focusing in on a particular genre of ticket collecting as opposed to just, I collect everything. And
yep.
I think, I wrote down some notes, rookies, and I was a big offender of this, and quite candidly, Eric, I'm still an offender because I get excited when I see stuff that's just what I say, cool shit. If I see a cool shit ticket, I'm buying it. And I got to stop doing that. But, you buy everything that's cool. You don't think about, whether it fits into your collection or not. You get caught up a little bit too in FOMO. I try to stay away from that. But, pros like Sean, he's very disciplined. He sticks to his genre, his Major League Baseball Hall of Fame debuts, and, he avoids really buying outside of the genre unless it's a really good deal and he thinks he could use it to potentially trade for something that he needs as part of his collection. He's also collecting the 47 Dodgers, Jackie's first year. But I mean, he's very disciplined. How are you disciplined, Mr. Zitter? Because I'm not.
I'm not. I tried to make myself look disciplined here, but I just look for cool shit, Howard, and I try and build around it. If I find something cool, I'll try and build a cool set around it. I don't know. I'm not really that disciplined. It's hard to be disciplined.
It really is. And, I've tried to become, a lot more disciplined, and then I do it for a little bit, and then I don't buy a couple of cool shit tickets, and I'm like, I wish I would have bought that one, or I start kicking myself. But, I think over time, the discipline is important, because if not, you just wind up with, well, maybe a whole lot of cool shit, but you wind up with a lot of things that are just stuff.
That's probably one of the biggest conversations I have with myself. Like, if I don't buy this, will I regret it later? Am I ever going to see another one? If so, when? So if there's a chance to buy something that's really rare and cool, whether or not it fits in the collection or not, I probably have to think about that for a while.
Yeah. I mean, again, I think if I had to make a recommendation to someone, it's just, walk away from it and don't think about it, and, stay focused in the genre that, you're really specializing in, because otherwise, you could just wind up buying things that really are not part of what you collect, but you just find them to be cool, and then you just have a lot of stuff. And I don't know that that's a terrible thing. There's worse things in life. But along those same lines, Eric, what's like your biggest few misses when it comes to tickets? Because you've got a lot of amazing stuff. You've got a lot of gets. But what are you like, dang, I missed that, and I probably will never see it again, and I'm kicking myself still?
Yeah, so, again, my biggest collection are debut tickets. There was a Clemente that came up a while ago. I didn't miss it because I missed it. I missed it because the price went, pretty high, and it's not something I wanted to, spend on. So I missed that. And then what I did miss was a Duke Snider debut, which came up. It wasn't labeled as a Duke Snider debut. I think it was labeled as Jackie Robinson's first hit, which Sean got. And he made sure to make me aware of it right after the auction ended, to make sure that I knew that it was a Duke Snider debut. So I missed that one. Those are just some examples.
So those are the two biggies that stand out.
Yep.
Have you missed on something one time, and then it came back, and you were like, I got a second shot at that, and I made sure I took care of it?
I can't think of any off the top of my head, but
there's been
yes,
times.
definitely. There's usually always another one out there, except for some of those rare ones that we just talked about.
Let me ask you this, Eric. If another Clemente came up and it was in that same range, do you pounce this time, or do you still say that's still outside of what you want to spend?
Yeah, I'd have to think about that pretty hard on how I do that, how I'd finance it, and what I'd have to sell in order to get it. And I'd probably put more of an effort. The risk is always when one of those comes out, you never know if the seat next to it or two seats next to it will come out right after it, and it could sell for half the price once the next one comes out. So just trying to be smart about it also. But yeah, you never
Other
know.
than those two, what are some things that you're still missing that you haven't seen that you'd like to add to your collection?
Yeah, and the debuts, a Reggie Jackson debut, I think Dave Winfield debut. I think there's one out there, but I'd love to get that one.
Is there a Reggie? Have you seen a Reggie?
I've never seen a Reggie. No.
Have the crew of you guys that do the Major League debut Hall of Famers ever seen one?
Not that I'm aware of. No.
Wow. What do you think that goes for? Big money, probably.
Yeah. Who knows? I'm not good on guessing on the prices of this stuff, because I bought a lot of this stuff many years ago, and the current prices, your guess is as good as mine.
Yeah. So Winfield debut, Reggie Jackson debut, anything else? I mean, even other sports.
Yeah, I mean, there's football debuts, like old ones that I'd love to get to add to the collection. I'm talking 30s, 40s. Basketball, hockey's hard. I do all debuts, so rare hockey debuts. I can find some obscure guy and be just as excited about that guy as I am about some of the stuff I just showed you. So
I know. That's what makes tickets so great. And the other thing is, the hunt. You know, the hunt drives all of us. And it's always good to have something that you're hunting for, whether it be a grail ticket or whether it just be, you know, something kind of real benign. Someone saying a
No,
rugby debut. Yeah,
I'm
you know?
not into that yet, but give me a couple months. We'll see what happens.
Rugby, cricket, you know, slap fighting, and all kinds of craziness. Well, Eric Zitter, you're always a pleasure to talk to. You're one of my good friends in ticket collecting. I like you very much as a person and as a ticket collector. We kind of bow down to the godfather of tickets. The thing I think we all like about you so much is that you have such a great collection, but yet you are just so tremendously humble. And we could all learn a lot from Eric Zitter. So thank you for being on again. Episode 38 of Stub Luv Live is over. Mr. Zitter, I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
There's Ashley. What's
Yeah.
up? How are you? And here we go. We got both Zitter kids.
There we go.
They make it on.
They've been waiting. They've been waiting the whole show just to do that.
All right.
So, there we go.
Well, we gave you the appearance.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Howard. Appreciate it.
Have a good night, guys.
Talk to you soon.
All right. Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.